Today we will be reviewing basic fraction skills. In this video, we will review adding fractions, subtracting fractions, and finding the common denominator. Let's talk about adding fractions first. When you're adding fractions that have the same denominator, in this case 4, you need to add the numerator only. Don't worry about the denominator, only worry about the numerator. 1 plus 2 is 3, so 1/4 plus 2/4 is 3/4. Let's see what that looks like graphically. 1/4 plus 2/4 is 3/4. But what happens when we're adding fractions with different denominators like 4 and 6? Well, we need to find a common denominator before we go any further with the addition. What's a common denominator between 4 and 6? I know that 4 times 6 is 24, so let me start there. I already chose my denominator as 24, so now I need to change both fractions so that they each have a denominator of 24. Ask yourself, how do I get from 4 to 24? I need to multiply. By what? Multiply by 6. Whatever you do to the bottom, you've got to do to the top. 1 times 6 is 6. So 1/4 is the same as 6/24. Now let's do the other fraction. 6 times what is 24? 6 times 4. Whatever you need to do to the bottom, you do to the top. 2 times 4 is 8. So 2/6 is equivalent to 8/24. Now we're ready to do our addition. 6/24 plus 8/24 is 14/24 because 6 plus 8 is 14 and the denominator does not change. So 1/4 plus 2/6 equals 14/24. But we can also reduce this fraction. 14/24 can be reduced by dividing the numerator and denominator by 2. 14 divided by 2 is 7. 24 divided by 2 is 12. So 1/4 plus 2/6 equals 7/12. Now let's talk about subtracting fractions. Subtracting fractions is similar to adding fractions because when we have a common denominator already, we only need to worry about subtracting the numerators. In this case, 3 minus 1 is 2. So 3/4 minus 1/4 is 2/4. Now let's see what that looks like graphically. 3/4, 1, 2, 3, minus 1/4 is 2/4. But what happens when we subtract fractions with different denominators like 4 and 8? We use the same strategy we used with adding fractions. We need to find a common denominator again. What's a common denominator between 4 and 8? 8. So I need to change these fractions so that they both have a denominator of 8. Ask yourself, how do I get from 4 to 8? I need to multiply. By what? Multiply by 2. Whatever you do to the bottom, you've got to do to the top. 3 times 2 is 6. So 3/4 equals 6/8. The other one is already an 8, so I don't need to change that one at all. The operation we're doing is still subtraction. So let's do it. 6 minus 1 equals 5. 6/8 minus 1/8 equals 5/8. Or 3/4 minus 1/8 equals 5/8. They both mean the same thing. Maybe you don't believe me that 3/4 minus 1/8 is the same as 6/8 minus 1/8. That's okay. Don't take my word for it. I'll prove it to you. See, the truth is, common denominators are really just a way of finding equivalent fractions. So in our example, the reason this works is because 3/4 equals 6/8. They are the same value. Let me show you what I mean. Here I have 1 whole equals 4/4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4/4 equals 1 whole. But 1 whole also equals 8/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. 8/8 equals 1 whole. In our example, we had 3/4 minus 1/8 equals 5/8. So I have 3/4 here, and we said that 3/4 was really just the same as 6/8. Let's see why. Remember we said 1/2 is the same as 4/4, which is also the same as 8/8. But we're not starting with 1/2. Our question starts with 3/4. So let's get rid of the pieces we don't need first. Now we can see 3/4 is the same as 6/8. 1, 2, 3/4 equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6/8. They take up the same amount of space. They are the same value. 3/4 equals 6/8. That's why we can say that 3/4 minus 1/8 is the same as 6/8 minus 1/8. Now that we've found our equivalent fractions using the common denominator, we can get rid of the fourths. We don't need those anymore. We can deal with just the eighths. 3/4 minus 1/8, remember? And we already know that it's 6/8 minus 1/8. We end up with 5/8 because our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6/8 take away 1/8 is 5/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.